Good afternoon to each and every one of our merry Marvelites out there. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk. Very excited to be here because, we tell you right away at the top of the show that if you don't want any spoilers, you should definitely not be watching us. We are going to talk about Wandavision episode 7, which you've had 14 hours to watch. So if you have found something else to do with those 14 hours, don't be here. But because Ghost 8386 had it in the chat right away, we will give him the credit for starting us off with "It's been Agatha all along." Surprising absolutely none of us, including myself, Christian Bladt, joined as always by Eric Connor.
Hello, yeah, I'm to your whatever that is.
Yeah.
Hello, yes, in honor of Agatha, I'm sporting some Slytherin wear.
Nice. And Michael Shirley.
Yeah.
I think if Jean Grey ever toured as the opener for Lila Cheney, the rock star from that era of X-Men, I think that that is the look she should go with. I'm personally impressed by it. And then Jeff Williams Jr., it's really hard to point at you because it's diagonal, so I'll just wave.
How you doing?
I think we could really beat around the bush, but let's just start off with the very simple fact that I think when we talked about the first 2 episodes together, and Jeff, you weren't with us that week, but there was always the theory that Agnes was short for Agatha Harkness, and we'll start to talk about some of the other theories about Ralph in a moment, especially the prevailing theory that is the one that Michael will not enjoy. But I think the reveal was cool. The theme song was nice. A lot of people on Twitter were talking about how they hope it shows up on Spotify soon so that they can just rock out to the "It Was Agatha All Along" song. The thing that I have to say about Wanda, Jeff, is she's obviously watched a lot of TV, but not enough horror movies, because you never go into the basement. You never go like, oh, go look in the basement. You never look in the basement. That's a terrible idea. Jeff, your thoughts on this revelation on Agnes, and a little bit of the here's what she was really doing, throughout the course of the previous 6 episodes.
Yeah, it left me kind of confused because yes, Agnes says she was controlling it all, but yet Wanda thought she was controlling it all. So there's confusion, and then also Agnes says she's not the only girl witch around, and it's like, so that leaves the door open for there's other people, other guys that are magic that are around. So it's just like there's still things to be discovered, but yeah. It wasn't surprising that Agnes was Agatha Harkness, but I don't know. When she walked down there, I literally was thinking the whole time, I was like, this looks like a TV show. It looks like she just walked in the basement. We never see this on a theater. Like if we're in a movie theater, you never see them walking down the stairs. It just looked like a TV show. So I was like, it kind of took me out of it.
Okay, that's fair.
It wasn't great. Like to your point, it was like, yes, it's the basement, and I was like, this is definitely like a TV show. So
sure.
I wasn't a huge fan of the whole episode though. So
that's fair. Cam Egan says I was waiting for Herman Munster to pop out during Agatha's theme song. I'd say that's the thing that it was most reminiscent of, because my wife and I were watching it and we were kind of talking about was that really a show? I'm like, it just kind of had a Munsters feel, really, and then they kind of ran with it. But I don't know, Eric, what did you think of the reveal and of course the opening for America's second favorite TV show? It Was Agatha All Along.
Yeah, well, one, I'm glad that they went with the Munsters theme instead of the Addams Family theme.
Yeah, that's fair.
Of the two, Munsters, people don't know it as well, so it brings that theme song to a whole new generation. Then the entire show was worth it. It was interesting because, was there a surprise? No, largely because of, honestly, all of you guys. I feel like
so we ruined it for you. You're welcome.
It's really everyone, and so it wasn't surprising. The part that I thought was kind of cool though was, okay, so Agatha's the one who really likes TV, Like this idea that was always kind of floating around was, well, Wanda grew up watching this TV. It's her kind of emotional break from reality. And so or her psychotic break, we should say. And so in essence, like we're seeing kind of her headspace, but then all of a sudden it's like, wait, so Agatha's the one who was actually a TV nut? That was a thing I'm kind of, confused about. Is like,
I'll help you out with that.
Please do.
Good. Yes, please do.
Why come?
There was an interview with one of the creators or writers, and they said that all these shows are stuff she watched in Sokovia. So I think that basically Agatha is just in this world with her, and only really kind of like Vision. Like she's able to like see behind the fourth wall, and she knows what's going on. And, it was obvious that she like tricked him when he acted like he was like waking her up, and she was just like putting on a show, wiping her tears. It was, I don't know. I think that she's either Wanda ended up where she lived, and all this happened and she just happened to be there, or she inserted herself there, and because she is more powerful or more knowledgeable about magic than Wanda, she can exist in that world and manipulate things.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, which obviously we'll see if she inserted herself in there, or if she kind of encouraged Wanda. What Michael B is saying in the chat is that he thinks Agatha was using Wanda's love of TV to kind of control her. I mean, we had the observation, I guess, back in episode 4 that somebody's editing the broadcast, so maybe it's like you think of Wanda as the studio, but Agatha is almost like the network.
Well, they show her in the director's chair
right, exactly.
The song. So it sounds like she's just kind of pulling the strings in Wanda's play.
Yeah. To that point, Daniel Drew says that he thinks Wanda crafted the TV aspect. Yeah. Agatha's just messing with the reality and influencing events. The world created is definitely designed by Wanda. And it could just be that she lives in Westview, New Jersey, and sort of drew Wanda to there. But I'm sure that's the aspect of, the sort of thing that we'll see. And I think that, to the point, though, that she is, I'm going to assume, not a more powerful magician, but at the same time, she's going to have been doing it much longer. And
she knows a different type of magic.
It's more the Doctor Strange, like the spells of magic, and not the reality bending stuff that Wanda can do. And and I think that that revelation also kind of points out why why Vision and Darcy were having so much trouble getting to them. As silly as all of that was, it did seem a little odd that Wanda would be going to those efforts to keep her husband away. But
very Truman Show, by the way. I know we've used that comparison before.
Sure, of course, yeah.
There's so many moments in Truman Show like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just they just would have that switch of like, oh, we need a traffic accident over here or whatever. So it's let's have the kids crossing. And I think that and by the way, this was the first time we'd gotten it on this show, but we had the very classic Marvel mid-credits scene where we had just a little bit more. And this was the week where I was going to turn it off, but I just kind of left it on because mostly out of laziness. And then we kind of see Monica, who we'll talk about in a moment, just what we get out of Monica in this episode. And Evan Peters was back, and it's funny because my wife and I had just been talking about you're seeing in the credits, and it's like, wait, Evan Peters' name is up there? He wasn't really in this one. Is it just because it was the back of his head and then you see him and you go like, oh, that's why his name was there in the credits, because we were about to see him. So I think that we do really, I think, Michael, this really pushes along our theory of whatever they're going to call Monica Rambeau. I mean, it's not going to be Captain Marvel, I mean, at least not at this point. She'll be Spectrum or one of several other aliases. But I think this pushes across the theory that she has, I think, already had some of these abilities, but now the third time going through that barrier, you could tell that right away it changed her. We saw her eyes, and there was sort of like a stare down with Wanda where I think maybe if Monica realized what she was able to do, she might have, I don't know, zapped her, for lack of a better word. But Michael, what did you think for the sort of slow reveal that we were getting out of the changes to Monica since we saw her at the beginning of episode 4?
I really, this episode was kind of hard for me, just in general. I didn't really like this episode very much. At first, when Monica kind of got her powers, I was like, this is weird. This is kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of lackluster for me. I was kind of wanting like a bigger reveal or something. I don't know. But then the more I thought about it, it didn't bother me quite as much. And I guess it's just different because we're watching it on TV instead of a movie theater. It doesn't feel quite as big. But I really wanted her and Wanda to get into a fight. But
well, I think that's coming. I think that's coming next week. And then I think Wanda and Monica and Vision will have to fight both Agatha and Sword in episode 9. But we'll get there when we get there. This was the first episode. I mean, I've thought it before, but Jeff, this was the first week where I was like, you got to be kidding me with these 38 minutes. Like, there wasn't enough that happened where you could justify, and it's time to end now. You know, at least give us the standard 42 minutes of network television. And like, you know, ending at 38 minutes, I'm like, look, it was cute when it was basically a sitcom. Mm-hmm. But you know, and look, this seems to be what Disney Plus's MO is, because there were many episodes of The Mandalorian where I'm like, are you kidding me? There's an episode of The Mandalorian that's 27 minutes, and I mention it all the time because I find it outrageous that they couldn't even get up to 30 minutes. And I'm like, 38 minutes, and like, you know, how much of that is credits? You know, how much of that is recap? What did you think sort of by where they left the story? And I think it feels more abrupt because honestly, it's not that much time after the episode started.
Yeah, you're right on so many different points. Going into this episode, there were so many rumors about we have 6 hours of content. We have 6 hours of content. That means we're supposed to have 45 minutes, 48 minutes, maybe an hour for these last 3 episodes. We got 38 minutes, and then we didn't even really leave on a cliffhanger. We left on Agatha knows or was doing it all. Like, was that really a cliffhanger? I don't really think it was. And then also with this episode, everybody leading into it was talking about the aerospace engineer. They even like changed the music, made it seem like it was going to be a big deal. I looked up who Captain Goodness is, whatever her name was. I looked her up. I couldn't find anything. So like, it must be a really deep dive. It was just a lot of frustration points. The only thing that I liked in this episode was seeing Photon or Monica Rambeau, whatever alias she's going to take, get her powers, because like, you got to hear her mother Maria. You got to hear Captain Marvel and Nick Fury all when she was like getting her powers, because they were talking about how she's gonna like grow up and be like her aunt, how she's gonna be like Captain Marvel, and it was like pulling like different things from Captain Marvel the first movie. So it was really cool to see.
I thought that was cool. That was big enough?
Well,
yes, because it was a TV show and they needed to do it quick. I mean, they kind of teased it so many times. Like they showed the cells and everything. So I was like, she must already have her powers. It just hasn't happened yet. I think we're going to get a bigger reveal once she notices. Yeah. I just don't think she notices. So it's like, it's not a big reveal yet.
I think when she, flies up into the air and, tears Agatha's house in half, I think that'll probably be a bigger moment. But yeah, I think that what we'll find that, there was something maybe cellularly that happened to her, but going through this barrier 3 times, it sort of like shook it loose, basically. What did you think, Eric, in terms of the amount of story that they happened to spoon feed us over the course of 38 minutes, and they said, that's enough. You're going to wait till next week.
Whereas there was the expression, you leave people hungry. Just give them enough so they know they're hungry.
I was starving at the end of this.
Yeah.
Angry.
Yeah. I was very angry. Thank you.
I think they pulled the thread a little bit long on two things. One, Vision's trying to ascertain what's going on and trying to get Kat Denning. Why did I just find
Darcy?
Darcy, thank you.
Yeah.
Trying to get Darcy on board, and the Modern Family stuff played long. It's part of what makes Modern Family work as a show is it moves really fast. And so I thought there was a weird little disconnect there in terms of the pacing, where all of a sudden she's doing the interstitials, she's doing the talking head interviews, which was a good device and one that, right, we all successfully predicted. So I'm proud of us as always. But I did think like it wasn't really funny and it wasn't really dramatic. So it's sort of stuck in the middle of neither. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
It works on the level that just by its existence, it's like, oh, that's kind of funny that they're doing it. But what she was saying wasn't really funny. You know, it's
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. It's kind of.
Yeah, like, it's like it's works. Honestly, it's probably consistent with Julie Bowen's interviews on Modern Family. They're the least funny of the whole show, so that's why they gave those to her. I know I haven't seen the whole series. I'm just being mean needlessly. What were you going to say, Michael?
This is going to come out of kind of left field, but have any of you guys watched the show Weeds?
Yeah,
I have not seen
that.
Yeah.
That the way she was acting and her physicality and the way she was talking and just kind of the whole storyline of like the missing husband and the kids and being depressed, she very much channeled these like Mary Louise Parker vibes to me for those scenes, which I just found really interesting.
It's funny. You're totally right with that. Yeah, the first season especially.
Like even her just like flinging the covers off of her in bed and just like laying there was just very much. It was almost like they had taken what is it called? Like the drawings, the storyboard of that show and kind of like taken scenes from the first like couple episodes.
Early in the day yesterday, the Wandavision account tweeted out like the first 90 seconds of this episode. Like, it was in its entirety. There wasn't like clips. And I feel like I think that was exactly as long as the device worked of like, look, we're doing Modern Family. We're doing The Office in the style. And Craig Robinson does point out, interestingly enough, because the American Office had a character named Craig Robinson. Weren't you guys talking about The Office? Probably not making an appearance. Nice opening theme. Yeah, the theme itself, I think, was great because it was obviously very much like The Office. The visuals were cool. And Eric, you noticed something about the visuals referencing a show that I had not seen much of, right?
In fact, I'm gonna guess almost nobody saw because it didn't last very long.
I was a big Damon Wayans Jr. fan. I just didn't see that much of the show.
Happy Endings, which was on ABC, or as I called it, the version of Friends I would actually want to live in. That basically, the opening of that is just different fast cuts of happy, 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 and then endings.
Right. It was all like Wanda.
Yeah. Although obviously it also had a tip of the hat to the Modern Families, I think, like maybe their font or their layout, something in there. Also, of course, was about the show that really it took the most from was Modern Family. Yeah, I just thought, if anything, it just needed almost like to give itself over to that style because that's what it did with every other style.
Yeah,
so
Vision was so not funny. You guys.
Vision was not funny, and at least they broke the fourth wall, which is the title of the episode, breaking the fourth wall. That he realized, why am I sitting here talking to you? And they at least dealt with the fact of as soon as they start hitting traffic, why doesn't he just fly there? But he's trying to be like, so wait, what happened? So she killed me. And, I thought that some of that was kind of funny. And of course, very sad when you think about what they're actually discussing. But I thought that some of those reveals were cool. And I do have to say that I was definitely mostly focused on the fact of how disappointed I was that Darcy did not awake as Kat Dennings' character Max from Two Broke Girls. That's really all I wanted. And I wrote this yesterday. I was so excited to put that out on Twitter, and then I realized like literally hundreds of people had the same theory, and I'm like, all right, so I'm not special, but I still wanted to see it. And look, it works. It makes more sense that she's part of the circus. But I'll tell you, if that was a Disney property, maybe we would have seen that, and then like all 3 seasons would have shown up on probably not Disney Plus, but
well, was there significance I missed to Yo Gabba Gabba showing up?
I not that I could see. I mean, I thought it was actually weird that it was a real show, that it wasn't like some knockoff version of that, maybe using like, characters who looked like Avengers. I don't know if either of you guys thought anything about that, that's what the kids were watching.
I thought it was their own. I thought it was just like a knockoff of like Teletubbies. I didn't know it was an actual.
No, yeah, yeah. Well, you're not far off of it just being a knockoff of Teletubbies. It's just a real world knockoff of Teletubbies, and not like an invented one for this show. Eric, while we're talking about things that you brought to the table, you wanted to make sure that we deal with the fact that Agatha confesses to the fact that she killed Sparky, and you want to make sure that everybody knows that you're starting a Justice for Sparky campaign, right? You want to make sure that she's held accountable.
Hashtag Justice for Sparky. Sparky was an innocent pawn in this game. He didn't deserve to go.
They say the first signs of serial killer is like murdering animals.
That's very true, but yeah, it's interesting because like Agatha Harkness, for the most of the character's existence, is sort of like a lovable side character for the Fantastic Four who happens to be a witch. Her interactions with Wanda are clearly what they're drawing on, I think, from like the early 2000s. So we're sort of not getting the cuddly version of her. So, which I think is interesting. I think that a lot of people were disappointed by this episode because of something Jeff mentioned, which is the fact of, we didn't see the engineer friend. We saw this military officer who I think actually is an established character. Somebody that I follow, I think, posted it, but they didn't really do much with it. And because look, everybody was like, oh my God, it could be Reed Richards. And then the theory that I loved the most was that it was going to be Kelsey Grammer as the Beast from X2 and I think X3 as well, and I guess Days of Future Past, etc. That's what people wanted more than anything, because obviously, you're doing a show that's still basically a sitcom. How can you not include Kelsey Grammer? There's probably a few reasons why you couldn't. Because first of all, I mean, wouldn't Nicholas Hoult be cheaper? I mean, if you want to have Hank McCoy, go for the cheaper Hank McCoy. People are talking about how they want to see Sir Ian McKellen. And I don't know that Michael Fassbender's cheaper, but yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know that Sir Ian McKellen is going to make an appearance, but boy, it'd be cool if either of them did. So is that sort of what you were getting at, Jeff, when you talked about the episode being largely disappointing? Was I think that we all hyped ourselves up for like, oh man, that engineer is going to be maybe Reed Richards or, maybe Blue Marvel or, maybe somebody else, or just as it turns out, really nobody that anybody cared about.
Yeah. I mean, I blame us a little bit, but I also blame like Marvel. They know what they were doing. They put teasers out. They release interviews certain days because they want people to think things. Like there was an interview that Monica, her name is I forgot what her Tiana Parrish. She came out with an interview. She said she was so excited for everybody to see who the aerospace engineer is. If you're saying that means we're interested to see who she is, who they are. So it's like you're insinuating things. So it was just frustrating. It was kind of let down. And then the whole episode just went slow.
Went slow and didn't last long enough. Craig Robinson just a bit let down. They didn't even acknowledge the absence of the engineer. And I think, look, I think if we get the engineer next week and it's somebody cool, there'll be something to be said for that. Michael B says, all I know, the Falcon and Winter Soldier better be true fucking hour, because this 22-minute BS is not doing it for me.
I like it.
Yeah, I think I just want more. I think it's like, when the show is up for people to binge, I think that the running time will probably be seen as an asset. I did tweet this last night that I really just can't wait for Falcon and Winter Soldier because I'm not going to be watching this at midnight or 2 a.m. Central Time, as our friend Farad Muhammad pointed out. I'm going to watch it in the morning. Maybe I'll sign out of Twitter, but I'm like, I just don't think I'm going to get the kind, it's like, oh my God, Taskmaster was in the new episode. Okay. Exactly. I'm going to enjoy it just as much. It's like, I know Sharon Carter's on the show and, some of the other characters who are going to be included. So it'll be all right. I don't think I'm worried about spoilers with the way of this show, but this episode, I mean, God, it's infuriating because I think the only way to watch this show is to watch it either right when it premieres or sign out of all social media because and Jeff, you were talking about you had a problem. I don't know if you tried to watch it right away, Michael. Not everybody did, but a lot of people on my Twitter I saw after the fact had a good 5-10 minutes of not being able to get into Disney Plus right away. Did you have a problem, Michael, or no problem for you?
I did think it was weird when I did go into Disney Plus. It asked me who was watching, like which account, and I only had one account on there, which it's never asked me before. Yeah. And I clicked it, and it was fine. I heard that people were having problems.
Yeah, there were a couple of glitches. There was one that said that I was in I was in a country that doesn't have Disney Plus, and I'm like, all right, now.
Well, I watched it 2 hours after it aired.
Okay, that's probably what did it. Yeah, I actually got to the point where I started watching, my wife and I started watching on a laptop. They send me screeners of each episode, but I don't know. I don't get them until they premiere. So I was like, I'll just watch it with my name burned in the middle because I don't want to be like, spending an hour doing it. So we started watching it.
That is so cool, though.
What, to have my name burned on the screen?
Yes!
I mean, I guess. Yeah, all right. You know what? You've convinced me. It's great. It's like I get to be part of the show. Yeah.
Christian
Michael didn't have a problem, and he watched it 12:08. By 12:08, it wasn't really a problem anymore.
Exactly.
Also posted last night on Disney Plus was the entire series run of the Muppet Show. So there were a few people I follow who were just joking that like, oh, everybody had to get that Muppet Show as soon as it dropped. And look, for those of us with kids, that's very exciting. I will probably, I'm not going to watch them sequentially. I will probably watch the episode with Mark Hamill. By this time next week, I'll have watched it, that and the one with Alice Cooper for sure. But in any case, so that was just more sort of wondering. But I think we're going to get a lot in next week's episode, which, maybe it'll be 39 minutes. But I think we're going to see more of Monica realizing, her abilities, because let's talk, Michael, about that like mid-credits little thing when Quicksilver kind of shows up behind her. Snooper's going to snoop. So what do we think? I mean, we realize now that Agatha's the one who brought this Quicksilver, and that sort of explains how it's a different reality Quicksilver.
Is it? Wait, that's you talking. I don't necessarily know that.
Well, do you think it's her shape-shifting husband Hank, who is of course Mephisto? Do you want that to be the explanation?
I think it could very well be Wanda.
Do you think Wanda brought Quicksilver?
Multiverse of madness.
No, sure, but
like all the stuff in her house is flipping and switching. Yeah. Like that's why I think it probably was Wanda, because she's lost control kind of what she's doing.
Right, but I mean, in part of it was Agatha all along. We see that she's like pointing to the fact.
You're right. No, you're so right. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
You can just keep saying it because
you never hear that like ever. In your life.
I don't hear that on the show. I don't hear that in this house.
At work.
Yeah, there is nowhere that I hear that. But so sort of to that point, what are your just, I mean, it's, we're not really predicting what's going to happen next week at the moment, but
I can do that. We're waiting for that.
Yeah, we're gonna build the anticipation for that. But when we got that little extra scene, what did you think about that? That he just sort of, and we're just really trying to figure out who that guy is, because earlier in the episode, Wanda even says, "Don't trust that man. He's not really your uncle." And I was a little surprised that we really didn't get him in the episode, but I mean, she did get really angry at him last week. So your thoughts on the little bit of Quicksilver that we did get to see in this episode, Michael?
Well, for me, I was so caught off that they had Deborah Jo Rupp
in the credits, right?
Credits.
Yeah.
And I was still like in my head, like going through and thinking, because they did have that actress from Buffy. What's her name? I know it. Anyways, the one who had the blood on her hand. And
is that character Dottie? Is that who you're talking about? Or?
Yeah, they had her there, so I didn't know if maybe she was in the neighborhood, and it was so quick I didn't notice her, and they just had to put her in the credits because she's such a big name. But then they said his name right after hers, and so that's what made me actually stay and watch. And
right.
when I saw that, I was thinking, ooh, this is super meta, because they kind of like created this like post credits tradition. Yeah,
it's true.
So it was like they were tipping their hat at themselves. I thought that within the whole him coming back, and I don't think they could have picked a better line. I loved. I think the reason I love Quicksilver so much is because he's kind of a bully. He's kind of a prankster. Yeah. I love that about him. And I feel like that's just something Quicksilver would say. That was just really funny, and I loved it. And I can't wait for them to go into the basement.
What did you think, Eric, about the mid-credits scene and what this portends for the rest of the series?
Big word. So last week we had that moment where Quicksilver said, your husband can't be killed twice, and she like flipped on him. I was a little disappointed they didn't pick up that piece of thread. Actually, I am glad he came back. Yeah, but that's when last week I was like, I mean, she's not in control of him. Yeah. And so I don't recall which one of you said, like, that seems like maybe it's Agatha's behind, the hand on that. Because, yeah, it's like, okay, she grabbed this element of her memory, but it's almost like maybe a piece of memory she can't fully get to. Yeah. And again, that's the stuff to me that's so fascinating. Is like, because when you look at this thing, kind of leaning into the idea of trauma and grief, and how Agatha is sort of playing with these pieces of her brain against her, whether it is still, it seems like it is truly WandaVision, but the fact that Agatha was behind one of the cameras, that's an image that really kind of grabbed me as like, okay, what exactly is Agatha controlling then? Yeah. Like, what kind of, if you will, let's go director, what kind of script input does she have? Who's got final cut on this? Like, I started thinking of all these kind of, movie making metaphors, because that's the stuff where also when they're getting this meta showing behind the camera, the voice of the interviewer, by the way, was such an important moment. So that's where I'm beginning to wonder, okay, like how much of this is Agatha sort of controlling? How much is she just sort of needling Wanda to kind of go there? And again, the age-old question, why use TV as the central metaphor, which I think we all have a pretty solid guess about in terms of what Wanda grew up with. But yeah, it feels like there's just a lot of pieces here that Wanda doesn't control, but also might not have created. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, sort of what Michael was saying in terms of Wanda losing control. It could. There's an aspect where it could actually be, Agatha having more to focus on too, and we'll see who's, what the breakdown is for who's got how much control over any of this. I did want to shift it over to Haywood and see what you think about this, Jeff. Did any of you notice that when Haywood was talking to the female shoulder, that's all right, it happens. People have typos, Michael. It's fine.
My female man just showed up. Actually,
I'm fine with Kama Egan. That's Michael who called that out. She had a puzzling look on her face when talking to him, knowing he's part of the problem. Look, I think that's how Monica didn't have any trouble getting that tank from somebody else at S.W.O.R.D. because I think a lot of people know, like, yeah, this guy should not be in charge. And people that are familiar with this operation probably don't think he's handling it very well. And I think that the officers remaining in his command also saw basically I don't even know, more than half of the men and women that are serving S.W.O.R.D., get swallowed up by this barrier. So what do you think? And by the way, Haywood says that like we're going to strike on it today. So do you think he's going to try and drop?
I called that, by the way.
You did. But what do you think from what we've seen of Haywood in this episode, Jeff?
I'm not surprised by any of the reactions from the military, like from the people in the military underneath him, and the chick specifically that was with him. It was like for me that was her second time, like giving him a specific like eye or look, because if you remember when they're leaving the hex, as in the hex is like chasing after them, and he's like, "Is there anyone behind us?" And he looks back. She's looking at him like, "Are you serious?" type of look. So that was the first inkling for me. And then now when he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna attack her," he's like, "Everybody's gone. We just all lost. You really want to just go right back into the fire?" So I wasn't surprised. There's a bigger agenda. He's kind of being more obvious about it because he's not taking anybody else's input. So he's just like kind of full throttle. And then when you go on the Monica side, the Astro, whatever the person is that we were supposed to like know who she was or he was, she says to Monica, "You're not she says to Monica that you have allies just like your mom did." So in the same fact that like not everybody's on team everybody. What's his name?
It's not all Hayward's team.
Yeah, not all Hayward. People have Monica's back because they know who she is, they know who her mom is, and they know what she's done for S.W.O.R.D.
Yeah. Two comments from Cam Egan. The first, "Oh geez, Michael, typos happen." And then also Cam Egan thinks Hayward is a Skrull. Look, that could be a reveal, but the Skrulls that we were left with at the end of Captain Marvel, and then when we saw them at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, they've sort of rewritten the book on the Skrulls, that the Skrulls are the ones who are actually our friends, and then the Kree are the ones that we don't trust, which is very consistent with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, that the Kree are the ones that we don't trust. And if you're bringing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into it, the Kree are not our friends. And that is definitely not the way that these characters were introduced to us in the comics, 55 years ago, or however exactly long ago it was. But I was also wanted to bring this in from Michael B. It could be that Wanda's subconscious is protecting her. That's why Quicksilver was different, maybe. I think that this goes back. I was going to say this before. I think this goes back to this idea that you can't really bring somebody back from the dead, that's a problem. So Quicksilver is dead, but there's this other Quicksilver in this other reality that maybe, Agatha is easily aware of, and she could have plucked anybody out of there. We could have gotten Michael Fassbender and Sir Ian McKellen, and we could have gotten James McAvoy and Sir Patrick Stewart, but I don't think this show has that kind of budget.
Too expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly think that Wanda just had that same book that she saw in Agnes's basement. I think she had the same book, and that's what created the whole hex. And not only is Wanda in there, but so is Agnes. And that's why she says she's not the only magic one in here. It's not like Agnes created this. She just knows the rules better. And Wanda knows the rules because she says to her kids that she can't recreate people. She can't bring people back from the dead and stuff. So it's like it's either Mephisto or Nightmare, but they both know they're not in full control of this.
And by the way, because of the expectation that this feeds into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I will welcome Nightmare more than Mephisto. I don't know. I'm like, I don't think that this is the place to introduce the devil. Sky the Boss points out Wanda's brother isn't Wanda's brother. He's Mephisto in disguise. Mephisto and Nightmare are working together, leading to Wanda ripping open the multiverse, causing pure chaos and carnage. To which I can say maybe. That's as workable a theory as any that we have at this point. But I don't know. I think. I think that we've gotten little bits of information, But I think that the big reveal is still coming. Michael, I wanted to focus it back onto your favorite part of the show, Speed and Wiccan, and the fact that Wiccan is referencing the fact that in the beginning of the episode that it's really noisy in his head, but then he likes it over at Agatha's because it's quiet and she's quiet on the inside, because we already know from, I guess, at least episode 4, when they had everybody's face up on that board and we didn't have her and we didn't get any information about who she was, that, that obviously that's why this really wasn't a surprise. I think that was the point where it confirmed, that she's somebody from the outside. But then they did disappear. Are you worried about Speed and Wiccan, your favorite part of this show, Michael?
I think it's probably going to go kind of like the comic books did with the Viz kids. They're going to try to make them disappear. I want to see them brought back for Young Avengers. I'm okay with them being gone for even 5 years, like in our time.
Yeah,
but
I can see that. Yeah,
but I don't want them to just be like figments of her imagination. I think they're tied up into whatever angle Agatha Harkness is going at.
Well, Erica, Monica said this earlier that they tried to lay down for us that the kids are real, that she actually really, they're not a figment of her imagination. So what that does is it sort of negates a theory for what originally happened with the twins in the late 80s, early 90s. I think it was the late 80s, the John Byrne run on West Coast Avengers. Sorry, Avengers West Coast. Huge mistake. My apologies. Was that the twins stopped existing whenever Wanda wasn't paying attention to them, when she wasn't thinking about them. They just weren't there anymore. And by the way, Agatha Harkness would be the one to babysit them very regularly. But that is certainly a different timeline. So
maybe that's why they disappeared when it was quiet. That I thought about that a little bit, by the way. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So I'm wondering, Eric, your thoughts on these twins. Ultimately, I guess the thing that we need to make sure of is that, that the kids, we want the twins to be okay, and we don't want anything to happen to them. And we really hope that she didn't Sparky them. That's really what I'm trying to get at.
It's Disney.
Sparky, too soon.
I know. Look. And yeah, you're right, Michael. It's Disney. They're not going to have Catherine Hahn kill 2 children. You're absolutely right.
But I got to say, I have a hard time seeing how Wanda gets out of this thing in 2 episodes with Vision and her children. I don't necessarily think the kids are going to disappear, but I don't think she's going to be able to keep them. It feels to me like there is a very big rift that's going to be happening. Again, if we're talking about entering Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, you talk about madness, having children that are taken from you along with, your partner, that's something that could really, however she's been damaged till now won't hold a candle to that. One thing I was thinking about too is Haywood, one thing they talked about in this episode was Haywood was actually trying to do something with Vision, which it sounds like that might be why Wanda went and got Vision's body when she did. That might have been have been the carrot that got her there. So then one thing I kept thinking about is how's Haywood and Agatha? It feels awfully coincidental. They're working completely separately. So
yeah,
so
that's true.
How are they connected?
She could be a Witch for Hire, which is also coming to Disney Plus in the fall. Witch for Hire. Make sure you check it out.
With a penny sign in the E.
Yep, exactly. Well, now we've got the logo.
Yeah. With the kids, I agree. I do feel like they're leaning into the kids being real, it seems. But one thing Darcy said too that might be relevant is your love is real, which I know is a bit of a cheesy line, but sure. The idea, kids sometimes come out of love, sometimes just out of whiskey,
but only sometimes. Other times they come out of whoops.
Yeah. Wait. What did we do? So, I think there is something to be said for they are real. They are flesh and blood. But again, keep thinking this thing's gonna to truly do justice to what it set up. I think 2 episodes from now, it's gonna be a bummer. Like it's gonna kind of have to be.
I'm letting myself be more optimistic, but my theory from the time that Wanda was pregnant is that the show ends and Vision goes back to being dead, and the kids never happened. But
no,
we will. You've won me over because I don't want you to be bummed out about it. That's really the main reason. I don't want Michael to be disappointed. And
I really enjoy these kids. Like now, I gotta say, like this is an episode where I found myself really wanting to see more of them. Yeah. Maybe more of them as teenagers than this age, I gotta admit. Yeah. But still, I'm really coming around on them.
They definitely, just kind of hit us in the face with the frying pan in the Malcolm in the Middle episode, where it's like, oh, okay, so this is like the kids are like talking to us now. All right, settle down, kids. But yeah, we didn't really get that much of them. But again, there was only 38-minute run. And then also, just because sometimes topics can only be topical in the moment that the show happens, Cami Egan says Sparky went to Cancun with Ted Cruz. So sometimes you just want to, do some cross promotion in there. Remind people that on the Blackcast YouTube channel, our network has our political show Biden Time, which I believe you'll be able to find next Wednesday. Cami Egan with another point. Where do you think the Eternals fit in this scenario? I'll interject absolutely nowhere, but I'll finish your thought. I know this is a long shot, but I originally thought Cersei was controlling some of Wanda's reality. And then Michael B adds, isn't Cersei Thanos' mom? Maybe she's behind to bring her son back. They're not going to deal with the Eternals before their movie. And even in the original 2020 timeline, before Agatha created COVID, this show would have premiered before the Eternals, which was supposed to come out last November. So there's no scenario, I think, where we get any of those characters in here. If we do, that would certainly be interesting and an interesting way to kind of set up that movie, because this show setting up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I mean, we have 3 movies before then, 4 if you count Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man Home for the Holidays, or whatever it's going to be called. I mean, they certainly could set up some other things instead of, just dealing with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. I would hope that we have some sense of closure with this show, Jeff. And then it's not like, I mean, I expect that whatever all this Westview, New Jersey that's going on, that's going to be resolved. But there's going to be a bigger problem, and that's why I still think we're going to see Doctor Strange at the end of the show, but literally at the end of the show. And I just hope they don't do the lighting double wearing the cloak and we don't see his face because they don't want to pay Benedict Cumberbatch. I just hope we don't.
We're going to see him from the back.
Well, but I'm just saying I want them to have to pay Benedict Cumberbatch. That's really what it is.
You want the reverse shot. That's all you want.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, like Evan Peters standing in the doorway. I just want that reveal. Like, it can be the exact same thing. The door opens and it's Doctor Strange. Great. Just give us that. He doesn't have to even talk, because then it's an under 5 and you can just pay him scale. But what do you think that they're going to do with this, Jeff, in terms of setting up anything else? Or do you think that they're not going to really worry themselves about that? They're just going to kind of focus on this story leading into the next story where we're expecting to see Wanda. Although, I mean, all accounts that we're going to see Doctor Strange in Spider-Man 3 as well. Yeah.
So that's why I think Doctor Strange is going to be in here, whether it's an end credit or whether it's like something bigger. But this is also going to lead up into Spider-Man, because it's going to be a Spider-Man, then a Doctor Strange 3. So like, I wouldn't even be surprised if Wanda's in Spider-Man 3, to be honest, just because of how many people and how it interlaces. But for the twins, I really see them coming back. I think this might be the catalyst where Agnes is like, they're not even real. None of this is real. This whole environment's fake. And then that's when Wanda's like, I can create what's real. And it might be the break there. But I can't see them being gone for a long time. I honestly think they might be part of the last fight, and they might be in teenage form by then, because we know with the Young Avengers, they're already doing Kamala Khan. They're already doing every different Young Avenger is being created right now. So It would make sense for them to bring 2 big Young Avengers and then kind of drop it away. And also, there's rumors of like other teenage kids being in WandaVision, so it kind of leads me to believe that there's teenagers going to be around.
Michael, do you think we're going to get to see Hulkling either in this show, or I feel like in She-Hulk for sure we would get to see Hulkling, right?
I don't know that we would see it in She-Hulk, but I'd love that. We still haven't had like a gay relationship, like a proper gay relationship. We had like someone acknowledged as being gay in one of the movies. In Shield, I think.
Oh yeah. I'm like legitimately trying to
think about it.
All I can think about, I'm like in New Mutants, and that like barely counts.
The self-help group. When one of
the it was that's right. You're right.
Like that Valkyrie, I guess.
Yeah, Valkyrie.
They act like she's bisexual, but she doesn't have any sexual. Any
you're right. The self-help group in the beginning of Endgame.
I think they're a little late.
I think that cameo is actually Joe Russo. That line. And to near and dear to Eric in my heart, he talks about the fact that he roots for the Mets. But this is the second time this came up in here. And Daniel Drew says, filming for this ended mid-November. Rights for Luke Cage and Iron Fist reverted in October. Is there any chance they're in the finale? As much as I would like for that to be true, I am going to say no. We are definitely not going to see the Netflix characters. We could possibly see, more Fox characters. But before the show started, I wasn't convinced that we were going to see any, except for the part that, we kind of all had heard, not all had heard, but we had heard this idea that we might see Evan Peters in the show. We just didn't know the role he was going to play. And we'll take a quick detour here because we're talking about these rights for the Netflix shows. And it is official now that Jessica Jones and the Punisher rights have reverted back to Marvel Studios. So these are characters that we could see. I don't think we see either of them on this show, but boy, if Frank Castle kicks in that door, I will definitely be glued to it. But I don't think we're going to see any of the Defenders, which is just the easiest way to summarize all of them. I don't think we're going to see any of them anytime soon. But and I do think that when we see some of these characters, they'll be in movies. There's rumors that we might get to see Matt Murdock in Spider-Man 3, but maybe he's just a lawyer and he's not actually as Daredevil. So what were you going to say, Jeff?
I was going to say there's rumors that either Matt Murdock or what is her name? Either
Jessica
Jessica Jones might be in She-Hulk because Kevin Feige was like, she won't be the only prosecutor around during that TV show. So it's like a kind of inkling of like, oh, there's other street superheroes, street prosecutors that are going to be on the She-Hulk show. So I was just saying that's what there's rumors about them being in that show as well.
Yeah. And look at Sky the Boss with this helpful pocket guide. Everybody should print it out and carry it with them at all times. Yes. So Black Widow scheduled for now, May 2021. Shang-Chi, July 2021. Eternals, November 2021. Spidey 3, December 2021. Ant-Man, I didn't realize that Ant-Man was before Doctor Strange, but that's February 2022. Doctor Strange 2, March 2022. Thor: Love and Thunder, which we've seen some on-set photos filming currently, May 2022. Black Panther 2, July 2022. Captain Marvel, November. I think that's supposed to say 2021, and then Blade sometime in 2023. I'm just exhausted now. I'm like, I feel like I've just watched all those movies after I read them all off. And it had been a while since the cat showed up. Also, hoping we get Mephisto nod in Moon Knight because that character is tied to Mephisto, so maybe saving him for that. That's that. I just wanted to bring that little bit of news in there, but let's wrap things up where we talk about maybe what we are expecting to see next week, what we're hoping to see, how many minutes it'll take us to log in. What do you think, Eric, that we're going to get from, we've got 2 episodes left, episodes 8 and 9. And what do you think we're going to get over the course of these next 2 episodes that I hope the total running time equals more than 1 hour?
Well, I was going to pitch, I think we should do an over-under for the runtime. And although some, you might already have that answer. Some of you might already know that, but I think I don't think
that's out there. That's a great point, though. Yeah, well, then go ahead. Where are you setting the line for episode 8?
Oh, episode 8. I'll put that one at 41 minutes.
I'll take the under on that. Sure, I will. I will walk up to the window at the sports book at the Venetian and put $1,000.
Including credits.
I'm still going to take the under because these 38 minutes that we got last night count the credits where it says like the voice actors for the German version. Like that. But in terms of actual content for those 41 minutes or so, what do you think we're going to get?
Right. Well, one thing we talked about before too, that I'm really like, what TV genre are they going to do here? We talked about reality potentially, but that seems like they would have done that already when things weren't quite so serious. So I'm starting to get curious about like, okay, is our next two, are they going to sort of break the set, like, or one thing that I was kind of excited about when Wanda started losing control is literally like kind of going Pleasantville with this, where maybe you start to get like black and white mixed with color, even more like genres, kind of almost like a mashup. I think that might be kind of interesting as she loses control or fights for control. What's going to happen to all the characters? Are we going to, in essence, have all sort of 6-7 episodes put in a blender for episode 8 until episode 9 sort of straightens things out?
And will they treat episode 9 as like a series finale, and they'll take some like, iconic moments from like the MASH finale or like the Cheers finale when, Ted Danson just kind of looked up, sorry, we're closed.
Yeah. With a nod to Coach.
Yeah.
Right. I want a nod to Coach from Cheers in the show also, Matt. So thank you.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to fight you on that one for sure. And Craig Robinson says, just to piss everyone off, they will do a retelling of it all from Agatha's POV. Yeah. If that's episode 8, I will be very annoyed because
for 42, as long as it's for 42 minutes.
That wouldn't bother me.
It would bother me because there's only 2 episodes left. If this was a 13-episode show and they chose to do that with episode 8, I'd be okay with it. But they were really stingy with the information this week. Jeff, what do you think you would like to see and what maybe you will see next week and beyond?
Look, if we get any type of any type of Agnes point of view of anything that's not new footage, I'm going to be very upset because we already got the slow burn from the first couple episodes, first 3 episodes. And then we got this 7th episode, which is like a wild card. It was like, well, you know what? We're just going to like give you guys information. No action is going to happen or anything. And then we have 2 episodes left. I'm going to be very optimistic. Every interview they've always said is going to be a slow burn up until it turns into a Marvel movie. We have 2 episodes left. Give me an hour each. Let it be a 2-part Marvel movie. And they just have to fight it out. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, there's this theory in the chat that the total running time for the 9 episodes has been promised to us as 6 hours. So
is that including credits and titles and all that stuff?
We're going to assume that, but the theory there is that we could get each of these episodes could be 90 minutes. The finale could be 2 hours. That's not happening. They're not going to give you a 2-hour episode of anything. But Jeff, just to play our game, we've set the line at 41 minutes. Are you going over or under?
Oh yeah, I'm going over. I'm going to be the optimistic one. I'm going to say an hour each, including. So yeah.
Including
well, I'm just saying an hour because if we're not including, I'm going to be an hour each, so we can have a 2-hour movie.
Here's how it works. It's just over and under. You're not laying the points.
Over.
Yeah, you're not laying the points. Okay.
Okay. My bad.
It's just over under. No, it's fine. You don't have to say running time plus 12.
No. I'm going to give you a parlay on the Swedish credits. I'll give you a parlay with that.
I was like, what's the over? How many do I get?
Will they be narrated by the Swedish chef to embrace the arrival of the Muppet Show on Disney Plus? Michael, do you think that next week's episode will be shorter or longer than 41 minutes? And also, what would you like to see in that episode?
Longer. I think it will probably be 43 in so many seconds tops.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
I'm just going to go out there and just tell you what I think is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to lay out or if it's going to be next week. I think the choice of using the Munsters for Agatha Harkness, and knowing the background, I think that she's gonna be like a anti-hero almost. I think that she's going to go from what you think is maybe a villain or what first starts as a villain, kind of like Wanda, and move towards a good guy character that teaches Wanda a lot in the future. I don't know that she's going to get a chance to teach her anything right now. In the comic books, Wanda kills her. So I think that could happen. I think that's probably more likely to happen. But I don't know. I go back and forth thinking, are they going to keep Catherine Hahn in this universe? Part of me thinks yes. Part of me thinks no.
And then there's the part of you that hopes they don't.
Now that she's an actual character in like the continuity of like Marvel Comics, I'm hating on like it all a little less.
Sure.
She's legit now. She's not just like a created for S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of a character. But I think this all is leading up to hopefully Ghost Vision. Like I'm thinking we're gonna get that glowy yellow white Vision that's like monochrome. I think that's what Hayward was working on.
Yeah, the idea that we could get Vision at the end of the show, but he's not going to be the Vision from beforehand. That is also the John Byrne late 80s Avengers West Coast, the Ghost Vision. I think that there's interesting stories to be told there, because the sacrifice would be what Darcy was talking about. Like their love would not exist, because even though, he's basically a synthezoid, I think is the technical term for what he is. He'll be less human than he even is now. And just that concept would be irrational to him. So yeah, I think that could be an interesting way to keep the character in the universe, but tell his stories in a different way. I think that we can't have Vision end up in the hands of Sword at this point. And I'm sorry, finish your thought, Michael. I just wanted to echo what you were saying.
And I have 100% confidence this is all setting up Doctor Strange, setting up Spider-Man. It doesn't surprise me that Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man, because all these villains are coming out from this crazy multiverse Wanda's opened up, or Agatha's opened up, or maybe Mephisto opened up. But I don't know. I think that's all tying into it. I think that's why they went with WandaVision. I was really surprised they went with that for the first Disney show. I thought it was really an odd choice, but I think it's because it's setting up mutants. I think it's setting up the multiverse. I think this is kind of like just the crossroads, kind of like the Memphis, Tennessee of like, that's where all the trade goes through. I just think this is kind of like the meeting point for everything.
Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first show, and it was supposed to set up the Black Widow movie. But then they couldn't finish that show because they had to go to Prague and finish it, and then this was on sound stages in Georgia and Los Angeles. So yeah, but to that point, I definitely agree with you. I think that this series is going to serve the movie universe in a I think a pretty valuable way. And I did like what you were saying, Michael, this idea that Agatha might actually be saving the rest of us from Wanda, who maybe is the true villain, and she has to be the one to stop her because she's the only one with any kind of magic ability. We have another theory from Kemi Egan. Is it possible that Hayward is actually Agnes's Ralph, or maybe his Nightmare? I think it's more of a real world character, but that would be a cool reveal. But he seems very frustrated by the mechanics of getting into the hex. So I don't know that that's necessarily the case, but we will see. And there's a lot of talk in the chat about the Stones returning, and not Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Good night, everybody. I'm sorry. I knew. I had to. Yeah, thank you. But specifically, are we going to see the Infinity Stones? Because we don't really know. what, because Cap had to go and give them back at the end of Endgame, but who knows exactly what kind of path that took. So we'll have to see if we see any of those. But I just wanted to touch on that because some people are talking about it in the chat. But we'll see all that and more next week. We've only got 2 more episodes. We will have a week to catch our breath before Falcon and Winter Soldier. They're doing like a behind the scenes sort of standalone episode 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, but we'll worry about that then. So until next Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, we will see everybody then. Until then, Jeff, where can people keep in touch with you?
At Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms. And like usual, I always do another recap, a 60-second recap of the show on my TikTok and Instagram. So definitely go check that out.
Are you going to use any of the lyrics from the It Was Agatha All Along theme song in your 60-second recap?
I mean, I was really annoyed by that, so probably not.
Probably not.
Because I don't want people to be as bored as I was through that episode. But you know what? That's just me.
It's only 60 seconds.
Exactly.
Honestly, your 60-second recap is only 37 minutes shorter than the actual episode. Michael, where do people keep in touch with you?
You can keep up with me at Sorry We're Wanda.
And as you can see on the screen, I hate Michael Shirley, and my favorite, of course, yes, we got Jeff doing now. Michael X Shirley on Twitter. And Eric, where can people keep in touch with you?
I will continue the fight for justice for Sparky over at Count Eric Connor, and also we'll maybe continue a discussion only on the clowns and a version of this show from their point of view.
Oh God, you would do something like that.
Hey, I would watch, and I think that it is important to leave things on the somber note of justice for Sparky. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel for this show. Our titular Blattcast, which we did a live episode yesterday with a bunch of our old friends popping in. And as I mentioned earlier, our political show Biden Time also every week here. That's all the time we have now. We'll see everybody next week. Until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!